Welcome back to another episode of Where's the Teaspoon? Today we are talking to our Capital and Estates Programme Manager, Ian Murray. And when Ian's not busy in his role at DCHS, you will probably find him on one of his 7 bikes. Yes, that's right, 7. Ian is a dedicated cyclist. He's even represented England at an international cycling event. And today he's going to tell us a bit more about this passion. So welcome to the podcast, Ian. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks for the opportunity.
I was hoping you could start off and tell us a little bit about what first sparked your interest in cycling.
Oh, it was a long time ago. I was very lucky growing up, always encouraged to enjoy outdoor activities and respect the natural environment. And I think as part of that, I sort of joined Cubs and Scouts, and that unlocked loads of opportunities to do a wide range of activities, camping, climbing, caving, and cycling was one of those. I remember at the time, I made a little pact with myself, which in hindsight was a lot wiser than my years at the time. And it was try any opportunity at least once. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But because of that, 40 odd years on, I've amassed a whole range of experiences that I would probably have never have done. And I still stand by that philosophy, even though I may have had to pare back some of the adrenaline sports and the physical side a bit, but the cycling seemed to stick. And it's one of those things that you can do at any level, whether it's sort of competitively or just recreationally.
That's a great little ethos to live by. How old were you when you started doing that? It was very wise for a child to come up with. Do you remember when you first started adopting
I think
that?
it was probably sort of Scouts age, so I'd probably be
Yeah,
about 10 or 11. I remember
yeah,
lots of other kids were, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. And I kind of got offered chances to go caving and camping and whatever, and
mm,
just remember mentally thinking, I just need to have a go at it, and if I
yeah.
don't like it, I don't have to do it. And it was in hindsight a real wise move because it's allowed me to try loads of things. Some stuff I wouldn't do again, but a lot of things I've really enjoyed. So
Yeah. Was this in Derbyshire? Did you grow up in Derbyshire?
yeah, I've always lived in
Yeah,
Derbyshire, always been sort of Derbyshire born and bred, and not moved too far afield.
yeah.
In fact, I live in the house that I grew up in as a child now. So it
Oh, wow.
moved away and then came back again. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
not moved far. And I think there's a real privilege in living in Derbyshire,
Mm.
certainly for the activities and interests I've got. So yeah, it's great.
If you're interested in the outdoors and those kind of activities, it is a fantastic county to live in. Yeah, absolutely. So, can you remember your first bike? How old were you when you got it? What can you remember about it?
Oh, blimey, first bike. I think it was definitely more of a fun bike. So I'd probably be about 8 or 9, and it'd be a rally chopper,
Oh, yeah,
which sort of had a. They've come back a bit. I think everyone's
they
trying to get
have.
hold
Yeah,
of them. So,
yeah.
but no, that was my first bike. But I think the one that really got me excited was having my first racing bike, which was a second-hand Peugeot that my mum and dad got for me, and that was the proper racing drop handlebars and whatever, and that was
Yeah.
really sort of the bike that started it off, I think, and there's been many more that have followed since then.
How old were you when you got that bike then, Ian?
I think I'll probably be about 12, 13, something like that, because I remember doing the sort of paper round on it, and uh,
Yeah.
as lads, we sort of all knock around on our bikes. That was sort of the first level of independence in a sense. You could get a bit further afield on your bikes, and
Yeah,
uh, you know,
yeah.
so yeah.
Do you remember what it was about cycling at that age that, and particularly this racing bike, what was it that you loved about it? How did it make you feel?
I think it was a reason to get outside. Just another
Yeah.
excuse to be outside in the fresh air, and always like the
Mm.
fact that on a bike, you could cover more ground faster than, say, walking or even running.
Yeah.
And I think you just saw new places. There's something about just being independent on your bike, being part of it and just riding along. And I think that still stands today. I enjoy the friendships and challenger riding. At the moment, there's a small group of us, about half a dozen of us, all similar ages, 50 somethings, although we're creeping to having to rename ourselves to the 60 somethings. And there's a couple of us from the estates team as well, Dave Mitchell and Foster Lewins. We all sort of ride together with a few other friends, and I think we're waiting to see who cracks first and gets an e-bike. But at the moment, we're going on the mantra that you don't stop riding when you get old. You get old when you stop riding.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one. Yeah, good one to
So
live
yeah,
by.
it's quite a good mantra. But for me, it's the release, time and space for me on the bike, whether I'm riding on my own or with a group. And I
Yeah,
think it's a physical challenge and a psychological benefits are great, really.
yeah, yeah. How did you go from tearing around with your mates and doing your paper round to cycling competitively then? Because you've done quite a few competitions in your time, is that right?
Yeah, I think it really started from a love of watching the Tour de France as a
Mm,
teenager and as I got older, and I think that must have set a bit of a spark. I was never going to be riding as a pro road rider in the tours or anything like that, but I think it was that spark of doing something more with just the recreational riding. Um, I started really with entering a couple of local duathlons actually, which were run bike runs. Quite enjoyed those, although I'm not a natural runner. Running sort of featured quite a lot in kickstarting the seasons and whatever. So and fitness. And got introduced to cyclocross not long after that and started competing in the local Notts and Derby Cyclocross League. And I think for me, cyclocross has uh, got a real strong grassroots level approach to encouraging anyone to ride. And it's one of the few sports where a total novice can be rubbing shoulders with a seasoned rider. You ride your own age category, but it's the same course that everyone else rides, and you ride your own race. And it's sort of 50, 60 minutes of full on torture with your heart in the red zone for most of the race. But no, it's a great sport, really. And it originally started as a winter training sport for road cyclists and became so popular that it became a sport in its own right, really. So it's a winter season sport that usually starts in sort of September and finishes January, February.
Those who haven't come across cyclocross, and I must admit I had to Google it after first speaking to you. Can you tell us a little bit about it? What is cyclocross?
Well, as I said earlier, it's a kind of a winter training sport for road cyclists originally. So it's
Mm,
usually raced on road racing bikes, really, that sort of frame. So they're not like
yeah,
mountain bikes or anything like that. They've probably had different tires and gear sets put on them, so knobbly tires and different range of gears, and probably clearances are slightly different as well. But essentially, you ride around a course for about, well, a minimum of sort of 50 minutes, 50 to 60 minutes, doing as many laps as you can in that time. And it's one of those sports that where it gets too difficult to ride, you physically get off your bike and carry it and run with it. So it's quite a sort of nearly an outdoor obstacle course on a bike. But it's
yeah.
great fun, usually very muddy towards the middle and end of the season, but it is great fun.
Does sound like it would keep you fit.
Yeah, it does.
Have
And
you?
I think it's just nice to be able to sort of ride the races with such a mix of people, so anyone can do. You know, you could enter on your chopper if you wanted, and the seasoned riders will just, you know, lap you as you're going round doing your
Yeah.
race. So it's great, really, and real
Yeah.
good sort of atmosphere and spirit really about it.
Are there many injuries?
Thankfully not. I think because of the terrain, it can be a bit necky, especially greasy routes seem to take a lot of us out from time to time. I have fortunately only ever had one serious crash in a race, and that was at Bramcote Park in Nottingham,
Right.
where I had a bit of a bad crash and ended up in Queen's Medical Centre with neck injuries, but they were, you know, it wasn't too serious, so I ended up with a collar on for a couple of weeks. But that was my own inability to descend properly at that time. So
Yeah.
a few
So
spills and thrills, but no real injuries.
yeah, thankfully. Let's keep it that way as well.
Yeah.
Ian, you've also represented England in a cycling event, which is an incredible achievement. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how did it come about?
Yeah, I've been having several good seasons in the local league, in the Notts and Derby League, which is sort of weekend racing. And in 2003, I was invited to race in Belgium in the UCI Grandmasters Cyclocross Championship. So it's a UCI event that's run for amateur riders only. So if you're a professional rider, you can't enter it. It's just for amateur riders. So went over to Belgium with a few of us from the Midlands, and lined up with about 40 other riders from all over the world, and raced the heart out for sort of 50 minutes or so in Belgium. The Belgians are crazy about cyclocross, and have pretty much adopted it as their national sport. So it's a great atmosphere.
Really? Yeah.
And you know, it's a tough hour of your life, but it was very memorable, and certainly, you know, a privilege to have been able to experience that.
How did you go in the race? How did you?
Well, I didn't win it, that is for sure. I was kind
Okay.
of middle of the field. I think it was just such a daunting prospect. So we got called onto the start line, you know, in order of signing into the event. So in the UK, you're sort of graded by your results. But in the UCI Grandmasters, you literally sign into the event sheet and you get called onto the start line in the order that you sign up. So we got there a couple of days early and were able to sign up right at the start. So I ended up getting called out to be on the front line of the grid, and remember thinking, stay on your bike for the first 200 meters, because if you come off, you're going to take 30 or 40 other guys off behind you. So that was a bit unnerving, but yeah, I, you know, sort of middle of the field really, which I was really happy with. And
Sounds like
a lot don't
amazing.
finish through mechanicals and whatever, so I was pleased with that.
Did you have to do much training beforehand?
Yeah, I think I'd already. It was sort of during the normal cyclocross season anyway. So the Belgium event was at the end of January, and that's towards the end of the season anyway. So I was sort of competitively racing throughout the period, but at sort of the peak of my cyclocross racing, I guess I was sort of putting in around 150, 200 miles a week on the bike. And then you do a little bit of strength training, so sort of weights and whatever, and if possible, a bit of cardio, running type training. So that sort of makes up your sort of general fitness for the season. And the more you race, the fitter you get, kind of thing. So it you just get on with it, kind of thing, and it makes the
Yeah,
racing a little bit easier.
yeah. And on the subject of fitness, you've also completed 2 London marathons. Can you tell us a little bit about that, those 2 experiences?
Yeah, the London marathons were quite an odd occurrence, really. Out of the blue, about a year after riding in Belgium, I was diagnosed with mouth cancer. And I've never been a smoker. I'm not a heavy drinker or anything like that. And it just sort of happened and really caught me left field, spotted at the dentist through a routine checkup. And the next minute I'm having surgery and treatment for cancer. But like a lot of others have said on previous podcasts, a life-changing event or an illness can give you a more focused perspective on life and what's important. And during my treatment, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be at the time, I made a little bit of a bucket list of things that I still wanted to do. And that's how the marathons really came up. I fancied doing a marathon. I'd never done one. And I thought, if I'm going to do one, let's go for one of the big ones and try and get signed up for the London Marathon. So I entered first year and didn't get a place, and the second year I did get a place, and decided to run for the Mouth Cancer Foundation, which was a charity that I'd obviously not heard of until I'd been diagnosed, and raised a couple of £1,000 for them in the first London Marathon. It was a red hot year that year. It was 2007, and I remember thinking, that's it, I've done it, I've ticked it off the list. And about a day later started to think, well, it was really hot. Perhaps I could pare a bit of time off me time. I'll enter again. So I entered again. Didn't get the next year, and then managed to get a place in 2009, and raced again. And I did pare a good 25 minutes off the time, so I was pleased with that.
Well done. Yeah.
Second time I ran for the Alzheimer's Society, which was again another sort of charity close to my heart. So very emotional experience. You spend 5 or 6 months training, spending a load of time literally just out training, running and whatever. And at the end of it, you sort of, I think all that emotion of running through the crowds and the noise and support is very sort of humbling, really.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I don't think I'll be doing any more now, but tick them
Never
off.
say never.
Proudly hold the medals, and they'll be forever with the other sort of certificates and medals. So
yeah. You clearly enjoy pushing yourself physically. What is it you get out of that? What does that do for you, whether it's the cycling or running marathons? Is it a mental health benefit? Tell us what that does for you.
It's certainly a mental health benefit for me. It's a time to just sort of reset everything, and I think it's just it's nice to have something to focus on, and everyone has something to focus on, whether it's a holiday or whatever. And I think the outdoor activities for me are something that keep me focused, and a reason to try and stay reasonably fit and active. And but I think it's the enjoyment of doing it, but I think there are obviously longer term health benefits from it, and just enjoy the people that you meet. And we've got, like I said, a little group of cyclists that regularly go out and do recreational rides and whatever, and then every so often we'll do something that's a bit different. So it's just a release for me. And it's certainly we talk about work-life balance. That's the bit that allows me to really enjoy life generally.
Yeah. What's on your cycling calendar for the year ahead for 2025? What's going on? What challenges have you got this year, Ian?
So it starts off, really, I think we've got an annual retro ride in Ulverston in the Lake District. So the retro rides are basically an event that started a few years ago where you ride on a vintage bike. So so long as it's older than 1978, I think it is, you can ride your bike in, you know, sort of retro gear and everything. So there's a few of us, Dave Mitchell from Estates and a couple of our biking colleagues enter that every year. We've done it for about 3 or 4 years now. So that's the first one. And there'll be a few other sort of recreational trips, but we also have an annual boys away weekend, which is a long weekend in Wales or the Lake District mountain biking. So that's calendared in for the summer. So again, it keeps us in at it, and hopefully gives us something to focus on and try and get out in the horrible January months to try and get a bit of fitness back.
Yeah, it's a good incentive for January.
Yeah.
In 7 bikes, where do you keep them all? Why do you need 7?
Well, you can never have too many, I don't think, and any
Right?
cyclist will definitely agree with that. They're all stuck in the garage or in the loft space, but I think, well, I suppose a good ration, one for every day.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, they are different bikes. You know, there's mountain bikes and road bikes and cyclocross bikes and such like. So they're sort of different bikes for different specialisms. I'm definitely not allowed anymore. And
Oh, you're not?
my wife Jill would have to see one be swapped out to replace it with another before she's allowed any more in the garage.
7's the limit then. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is. So long as the number doesn't increase, if I swap them out, that's you know, that'll be acceptable, I think.
Ian, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your hobby and your passion. That's been really interesting to learn more about. So I wish you well on your bike and hope you get some good weather to get out and enjoy it again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian.